Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Weekly Awakening Podcast. It is your host, Cosmic Colleen. I hope everyone is having a beautiful new moon. New moon in Libra. Today has been harmonious for me, and I hope it has been for you too. One thing I wanted you guys to focus on with this new moon, I'm recording this during this new moon, and one of the things I want you guys to focus on to start your week, we're starting a new cycle, a new moon cycle, and a new week. Focus on a word that you want to feel or incorporate into your world, into your life, into your mind. If it's love, if it's peace, if it's a new identity, if it is flow is my word. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. Focus on that word and put that into your conscious, put it into your subconscious as much as you can. Redirect your thoughts back to that word. Redirect it to peace. Question yourself. You know, if you don't feel right, you're getting lost in your head. Is this going to lead me to what I want to feel right now? Is this pushing me further or closer to what I want to feel? And focus on that. If you want to manifest something, focus on the feeling first. Focus on what it feels like to be abundant, what it feels like to be peaceful, what it feels like to be happy, what it feels like to feel safe or trusted. All right, so pick your word. I picked flow. Again, I'm going to be talking about that very, very shortly. I want to remind everyone to follow me on social media, Cosmic Colleen, 1C across the board. Definitely want to follow me on TikTok, probably the most. I sit with this every week. I pray, meditate, and come up with how I think the planets are going to show up in all of our lives. But as I'm living the week, as I'm in the salon with clients, whatever I'm doing, other things start to happen, and I start to see a new way that this transit might show up. So I talk about it on TikTok. So definitely follow me. Sometimes I post them on Instagram, but mostly TikTok. Thank you again to everyone who keeps getting my podcast out there. It means so much to me, and I'm so grateful for you guys. I couldn't have gotten this far without you guys. That's the best way to support my podcast right now is send it to a friend. Post it on social media, just share about it, talk about it, listen to it, rate, review it, subscribe to it. All of those things can really help my podcast. So I really appreciate you. This week, I had 3 people reach out to me, or I ran into, they walked in the salon. I said, I listened to your podcast. I was like, oh my God, really? Like random people, thank you. That means so much. So I love hearing that. Thank you again for all the support. Again, that is the best way you can support this podcast. So we are going to be talking about Venus and Mercury conjoining each other, which is happening on Monday. And they're both going to be trining Pluto retrograde. And Mercury is still retrograde. We're almost out, though. We're in the last week of Mercury retrograde. Yay! Didn't that go fast? For some of you are probably like, no way, Colleen, it did not go fast. We also have the Sun going opposite Jupiter retrograde, Venus in Libra, and Venus opposite Jupiter retrograde. That's what we're going to talk about on this week's episode. But right now, I want to talk about flow and the word that came to me. Now, last week, we had the fall equinox. I know I didn't really talk about it on last week's episode, but I was living the fall equinox as it approached. So that day, I went and did a yoga class at the YMCA, and I belonged to the YMCA for many years. However, it's been since pre-COVID, I just took a class. And I've been meaning to, and one day I got there earlier, and I was like, oh, let me just pop into this yoga class. And it was a really quiet class. It was great. 5 people, and the instructor, she was awesome. And right away, like into the spiritual self, the spiritual world. And she talked about the equinox, and she first said flow and allowing life and surrendering to life and allowing it to flow the way we have to surrender to the fall. We can't control that the plants are dying, the leaves are dying, things are getting darker, it's getting colder. We can't change that. We can surrender to it and we can flow to it and allow it. And it really was something that has played up over this past weekend. And in life, we all go through things, and I always feel that what causes it or makes it harder is when we are trying to fix, manage, or control something outside of our control, instead of just flowing. And in order to flow, we have to accept. So we got to accept what's happening. So as I was going through life, as things weren't going my way, over this past couple days, I just kept saying flow. Am I flowing? Am I flowing with my reactions? There's some things in life that, in my life right now that I'm unsure about, and a bunch of different avenues in my life. And so anytime any of those doubts or worries came up or questioning, I said, flow. Am I flowing? Is this thought process going with flow or is it going with resistance? And every time it was going with resistance. So again, flow kept coming up to me multiple times. I mean, people were talking about it, my clients. And then today I took my kids to St. Pete's, which I love, up by Pottstown, St. Pete's Village. And it has a couple cute stores. And there's this holistic store, spiritual store I love going to. I've been going to there since they opened. For the last couple of years, I pop in and it's Holistic Healing Cafe. And I know that they do a bunch of classes, Reiki. It's a husband and wife that owns it. And I met the wife before, but I've actually never met the husband. And I haven't been able to take a class there yet, but I usually like to go in and buy my crystals there. I try to buy them local to places around me. And today I walked in and I saw Terry, he's the husband, the spiritual advisor, and a psychic medium. And I'm just minding my business, and he's talking to someone else there, and he just starts talking about flow. I was like, are you serious? I'm like kind of eavesdropping and getting close, but it was just us three in there, so it's hard not to hear. And he had a really interesting perspective. He was like, everything around you, and he starts talking about going with flow, but then he also kind of tied in, where do we have to take control, and I'm kind of like, no, control. But as he was talking, I really enjoyed and valued his opinion and his view on flow and letting life flow around you, but also where do you take control? So he and I started talking and I was like, you know what? I've been getting your emails for years, looking at you. I'd love to have you on the podcast talking about acceptance, flow. And he was like, I would love to. I have one heck of a story. I think some near-death stories, experiences he kind of just started talking about. So in the next couple of months, he and I are going to get together and we're going to do a podcast. I'm really excited about that. But if you definitely go to St. Pete's, you guys know that's like my favorite little hiking town, mountain town. We just kind of go play in the woods there. But definitely check out Holistic Healing Cafe. You're going to love it. Go to their website. Eventually I'll do the classes, and I'm really excited about that. So I kind of just flowed there that day. We decided randomly to go to St. Pete's. I flowed in the shop because I like to go. He was talking about flow. Again, it was just one thing after another. And then I was like, you know what? You'd be great on this podcast. So flow. Whew, flowing. Remember, we cannot resist the flow. And also, I feel like that is sort of, this is also when I say flow with my reactions. Again, that is where it's coming from. Flow with my reactions. And my reactions are going to come to my level of acceptance about what is happening in my life, what is happening around me. I need to be able to flow. So when something happens right in front of me, whether it's as simple as a client missing an appointment, last minute, or two clients showing up at the same time, how do I stop the resistance and how do I just let that moment flow? And again, I let that moment flow by accepting and saying, I guess, sorry, this is just how it is. And we're going to have to go one at a time. Flow. And I feel like that is really sort of like the flow into Libra season. Libras, they like to, in a way, they're very controlled with their actions, but there's a little bit of flow with trying to find balance, right? It's an air sign. So yes, they like a controlled reaction. However, they also like to flow like the air, with acceptance. And I know a lot of Libras who, they might resist the acceptance at first, but eventually once they get into it, they kind of flow through that. So how, flowing with your reactions and not having an overreaction, which is what Libras don't like. They don't like overreactions. However, they sometimes are so scared of reacting that they hold back and then they let go and they have extreme overreaction and then they pull it back in again. So again, I'm excited about these next 2 weeks. It's going to be a pretty calm 2 weeks. I think I had said the end of October, though, it's going to get kind of heated up. We got Mars retrograde starting. We got an eclipse season starting again. So, and the bed. I'm going to share my nectar bed came in. All the parts came in. If you remember me talking about last week, they all came in. Thank God. I'm very happy about that. All right, so let's jump into Venus and Mercury conjunction, and it is going to be trine Pluto retrograde. So first of all, when Venus and Mercury, they're coming together right now. Mercury retrograde moved back into into Virgo, and Venus is a Virgo right now, and they're conjunct. So with that, I think that this Mercury retrograde was a lot about relationships. So if there was a lot of confusing things coming up in your relationships, and all of your relationships, love, family, friends. When I say family, we're going to look at for like siblings, aunts, sisters, things like that. Family, if there was any sort of argument, fight, miscommunication, Mercury retrograde miscommunication, you guys should be able to come together with this conjunction and harmony and be able to work things out and talk things out. It's happening in Virgo, which is a mutable sign. And Virgo, it can hold on to anger and get mad, but then it switches really fast. It kind of gets over it. And it also can like quickly forgive when it wants to. Like, okay, yeah, I know we did that, said that, but let's just get over it and have another good conversation. So if there was any of that miscommunication, you guys should be able to come back together. And working out kinks in our relationships that might have come up over Mercury retrograde or a little bit before. And kinks, again, in all of our relationships, friendships included, communication kinks, or maybe something a shadow came out that only we saw or someone else saw, or we saw someone else's shadow, vice versa, and we're ready to change it, heal it, or we learned from our mistake, or we're learning from it doesn't necessarily have to be a mistake, but we're learning from our shadow self somehow, where we sort of can join both sides, the light and the dark side. I know some people listening don't love to like categorize dark, but the truth is, what I believe is we have both in us. So it's okay. You're going to have dark stuff, and I think we should acknowledge that. I know the spiritual community sometimes does like to be so love and light, and you have to be too sensitive when talking about people's dark sides or mentioning that there's darkness or negativity. No, that's bullshit. We can easily talk about positivity and positive stuff. We got to talk about the other parallel, and that is negative stuff. So some shadows were coming up. We were having some awareness, but now we're going to heal that. Now we're going to change that. We're going to shift that, which is what happens. And again, a shadow that maybe was revealed in someone else, or, within yourself. You should also be able to come to some understanding, peaceful acceptance from it. Just a more peaceful acceptance of the darkness unfolding around you, inside you. You're just coming to acceptance and peace with that. And also, this is a great one for taking your power back. If you're returning to a conversation, maybe you're at work and you had a conversation where, you lost your words, very Mercury retrograde, you lost what you're saying, you didn't say something right. Well, this should really have you taking back your power and being able to assert yourself much better in those conversations. I always love this transit too, with the trine to, Venus Mercury conjunction in Virgo, and the trine to Pluto retrograde, to like letting go of a vice, getting sober, or, I think we just go there, but letting go of a vice, whether it's a toxic relationship, cigarettes, food, something, even like bad self-talk. Today's new moon is about like positive self-talk and love and words. This is a good one for letting go of that bad self-deprecating talk. And again, you're really going to be able to articulate. This can also bring some emotionally binding conversations. You end up running into someone, or maybe you're at work and you're on a break with someone, you never really talked to them, and next thing you know, an hour goes by and you guys had like the most fascinating conversation. You can't wait to talk about them again. And with all my Mercury placements, that's like my favorite thing to do, is have a deep, amazing conversation. But again, one that emotionally binds you with this person or has you thinking more about them. Expressing your feelings, again, mind connection, where you just can't stop talking or can't stop connecting with someone fast. And just kind of going about in a harmonious feeling. All right, so the Sun opposite retrograde, which is also happening at the same time, and I'm going to read a little bit about the Sun. Okay, so justice is served. This came up to me. I wouldn't watch the news. I think it's going to be a little bit of a mix. However, there probably will be some good news about justice, someone getting justice in some sort of way, someone's, karma coming back to pay them. But this can also be a transit, again, in the news where you see someone losing something big or along those lines. Your punishment is coming. I know that sounds harsh, but these are the ones that were coming to me. And hopefully for all my listeners, there's no punishment for you guys, just harmonious love. Unless you like a little punishment, then go ahead and spank. But fast growth with something, with your purpose, path, ego, your power, daily life. Maybe you'll come really, really fast to power, or you'll be really fast, headstrong into power, and then all of a sudden the ego dies from that. Road rage, watch your road rage, people. Don't you road rage and watch for other people during this time. And again, something tangible is going to be growing. And that goes the same with Venus opposite Jupiter in retrograde, is something tangible growing, but you got to watch that you don't lose your peace of mind or your loving disposition when it's growing, especially if it's growing in not a good place. I want to read about the sun. So I know I quote this book, The Classic Seven Planets. As you guys know, I'm a Hellenistic astrologer. And I love the seven. There's so much with just the seven classic planets. And this is a source text of meaning from this guy, Charles Orbit. I hope I said Obert. He wrote a book, and this is basically the Hellenistic ancient astrologers, like a combination of their notes. So it's sort of, written how someone would have wrote notes 200 years ago. Longer than that. Much longer than that, actually. But here we go. It's talking about the sun. So in modern astrology, really made the sun about the identity of the person, but it's really not. And I'm going to read to you about, because I really think this describes it so, so well. Okay. Where do we want to start? The sun sign astrology, started to look, that began in the 20th century. Whenever we started to associate that with your identity. But here we go. The sun has less to do with identity and more with glory, honor, and power. In traditional astrology, the sun has much more to do with public standing and reputation than it does with identity. The sun overall is related to honor, rulership, reputation, public standing, ranking in society, and government. And the Sun and Jupiter have similarities here, and so does the Sun and Mercury. Some things will cross over, so that is what we're talking about. So again, there could be some repercussions to people's karma, as far as even getting knocked down or ranking. But oftentimes. There are so many things that these transits can play out, and they can be very small, and they can be very big with this exact transit, depending on what's happening in your life, what's meant to happen in your life, and how it's showing up in your chart. Venus opposite Jupiter also, I think it's going to be conjoined Mercury too. There could definitely be some quick naughty love affair vibes. Definitely don't suggest that though. Definitely don't suggest that. Now Venus is going to be moving into Libra this week, and she's going to be much happier, much better dignified in Libra, and she's ready to enjoy again. She's been overanalyzing and overstructuring and overthinking her love and the way she loves and her joy and her happiness. It's being in Virgo, because that's what Virgo does best. It overanalyzes. And now it's in Libra, and it can just, it can move forward. And now that it's overanalyzed, it can decide and understand to move forward with caution. Is this joy, love, happiness, or does it bring me love, joy, happiness, or do I need to drop it because I'm ready to feel good things? So we're going to be, again, coming to more decisions. There's going to be more solutions to love and our happiness. We're going to be taking our time again, being more cautious when it comes to those Venusian things. Again, we'll be much happier and finally making the decisions that we need to make. Especially when Mercury went retrograde, if you remember me telling you, in Libra, I became very confused and not sure what to do and going back and forth. Well, with Mercury now moving back into Virgo, stationing direct into Virgo, we're going to have our decision, and we are going to know what we're going to do, and then we're going to be enjoying while Venus is in Libra. And we're going to be enjoying all the pumpkin spice, Halloween, darkness time. Everyone loves this time, and Venus is definitely going to love this time. We're going to get cozy. And Mercury on Sunday stations direct. That happened fast. Again, I know some of you are like, no way, that did not happen fast. You're crazy, Colleen, but I thought it did happen pretty fast. Mercury retrograde, it always does fly by. Again, the big thing around here was messages or communicating with love, friends, happiness, and really understanding or bringing question to our love and joy. And it's kind of crazy. You'll see when it retrogrades how all of a sudden things are going to clear up. Your mind's going to clear up. Also, I always forget when Mercury retrogrades, I always have a hard time like choosing my music. I don't know if you guys are the same way, but I have a really hard time. Like nothing satisfies me musically. And I'm like, next song, 30 seconds in, next song. Maybe I like the song, next song. It doesn't give me enjoyment. And it seems to always be something that comes up for me. So when that happens, I try to just begrudgingly sit in it and listen to it. No, sometimes, but usually I try to listen to some podcasts, or I go to my frequencies, which I like to do, or my guided meditation, because clearly something up there is telling me that I need to get out of La La Fantasy Land, which is what I do when I'm listening to my music, and I need to start like coming down and grounding myself a little bit. But communication is going to smooth out. We're going to have the answers we want to have. Anything that was stalled when it comes to like work, moving, cars, all that stuff, anything that was stalled or not going right, that should start to work much smoother again. So we're going to be moving forward, and things are going to be moving forward with us. Yes, I'm excited. And remember, these next 2 weeks are going to be pretty easy, harmonious, and pretty good. Now, next week's episode, guys, will probably be a little bit late. I probably won't get it out until, honestly, Wednesday, maybe Thursday. So not much is happening at the beginning of next week. I am going back to my hometown next week, and I'm taking, I grew up in Western PA, and I'm taking my mother and my children. I don't know the next time my mom will be able to get out there, and because she doesn't drive out there herself, so I drive her. So we're just like going to go around. I'm going to take them back to the golf course I grew up on. We're going to see some friends. It just so happens my sister's in town, seeing her in-laws. So we're going to go to Pittsburgh. I'm really excited about this little trip. I'm excited to return my kids back to where I grew up. They'll be in my first house. I mean, they won't be, but Mercury retrograde will be stationing direct in my first house in Virgo, where my moon is. So we are going back home. That's definitely some Mercury retrograde stuff at the very end, and I'm really excited about that. So again, next week's episode won't be out till a little bit later. But I love you all. Have a beautiful week, and you are beautiful.